You have no idea what the consequences can be.
I completely broke the universe.
Because the new Flash movie is coming out, I wanted to make a cool Flash scene in After Effects. So we set up a blue screen and had Kevin run on a treadmill, and here's what we came up with.
Okay. Just gotta go faster than the speed of light, far beyond the speed of light. Gotta break the rule barrier, and you've gotta do it now.
Alright, so I'm in After Effects now, and we actually just shot the blue screen plate in slow motion. So we're going to drag this into a new comp by just dragging it onto that little icon right there. And now we have our blue screen plate. So first thing I'm going to want to do is create a garbage mask around him and cutting off all of the bad stuff that isn't a part of the blue screen. So I'm just going to make a little rectangle mask. And I'm going to cut off that little bottom part with the shadow as well. And I'm just going to scrub through and see if his hand is clipped by the mask. And then I'll expand that out. If it clips it, it looks like it clips it right there. So now it's just a matter of keying it. So the first thing I'm going to do is add Keylight to our clip. And I'm actually using a plugin called Video Copilot Effects Console. It's free, and it's just a really fast way to get effects. So if you're curious about that, look that up. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the screen color and eyedrop somewhere around here. We're just going to try to find, I'm going to try to find the darker part of the blue screen. And then it keys out pretty well, but you can see some artifacts there. So if we hit screen matte, we can actually see, if I up the exposure here with this little toggle here, you can actually see it's not keying out everything. So what I like to do is click on the color, and it will bring you up a little color picker selector thing. I don't know what it's actually called, a little palette. And if you kind of just move this around, you can start to pick the best color to key everything out. And it's looking like somewhere right there keys out pretty much everything. And that's looking like a pretty solid key. I'm going to bring the exposure back down to 0. You can also switch to status, and you can actually see, like, up here there is some information. So if I go to screen matte and push up my clip black, I then can get that little area going away. And then I can bring down the clip white so the pants are more white. And basically status just shows you, like, if there's even like a tiny artifact, it like exposes a lot easier. So first off, I'm going to switch this to intermediate result, and right there we have a fairly good key. Then what I want to do is add a few effects. So we're going to add key cleaner. And basically what key cleaner does is soften out the edges. And then I'm going to add advanced spill suppressor. And usually the out of box settings are pretty good. And if you notice, if we look right here, that blue tinge turns a little bit more, not blue. Okay, so now we got a pretty good key of Kevin here. So I'm going to scale him up so he's not clipping the floor right there. So every part of him is in the shot. So now it's building the environment behind him. So what's important is getting some stock images. I use a website called Unsplash, and that is a great place to get royalty-free pictures like this. In the original Flash scene, it's kind of like a deserty kind of thing, so I just found a cool desert image like that. It's a huge image, which will work to our benefit, because we're going to scroll this image like that. And I'm also going to bring in a BIGFILMS asset, Real Clouds Background 01. This is in the Apocalypse pack, and we're going to bring that in, and I'm going to put it over the horizon just like so. And I'm going to mask just around this area like this and feather it. A lot of this is going to get really dark, so I am not terribly worried that it doesn't look correct right now. We're going to mess with the color and stuff here in a second. Now I want to kind of start adding motion to it so we can start seeing problem areas. So I'm gonna hit Control Alt Shift Y, and that will bring up a null. And if you don't want to learn shortcuts, you can just go layer new null object. Okay, so then we're going to take the clouds and the background, and we're going to select them both, and we're going to go to this little parent and link. And if you don't see it, actually it should be there right here. And we're going to take this little pick whip and move it to null 3. And basically what that does is makes it so you can control the layer, which is going to be perfect when we start wanting to make this look like he's moving and the camera's following him. So we're going to animate the position, start there, and then we're going to move it until we kind of clip the clouds there. And let's see if that's a good motion here. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now that we have that, let's start coloring the background. So let's take that background image. I'm going to add a lumetri color to it, and I'm going to bring the exposure way down, and I'm going to make it blue. Temperature, I might add some highlights or contrast to it slightly. Maybe bring up the exposure slightly, but right there, now it's already feeling a lot better. And we could even make sure that Kevin here is also fitting into the scene. So we'll add a lumetri color. I'm gonna bring down the exposure, make it a little bit blue here, add some contrast, maybe desaturate him a little bit. And now he's looking a lot better with some color. Now let's add more things to make this feel a lot better. In the Justice League movie, I believe he's like reversing time in this sequence where he's running and he's reversing time because he's like breaking the speed of light. So I thought it'd be cool to bring in some destruction from our destruction pack and these buildings like this, right? And bring them in above our background, and instead of playing them forwards, we can just place them into the shot like that and then just reverse them. So if we go to time reverse layer, or you can hit Control Alt R, you can start creating a really cool effect here. So as he's going, oh, and one problem that we have is because we didn't parent this to the null layer. So if we just take our little pick whip here and bring it to the null layer, and as it moves, right? So let's position this in a cool spot here, and let's add a lumetri color and mess with that color. Basically, I think it's just overexposed, and we just need to make it a little bit more blue, or maybe less blue, and desaturate it, and maybe mess with the contrast. And then right there, we have a fairly cool looking thing already. And we're also going to add another effect to this that will make it look a lot cooler as well. But yeah, we can do this to another building. Let's just throw in building normal 4. Let's do that one. And then scale it down. And then place it however you like. And this is what BIGFILMS is all about. It's dragging and dropping, and then maybe messing with the color, and then you're done. Really, you know, it's actually kind of fun. It's just Legos at this point, you know, it's just fun Legos. Okay, so right there, looks good. Make sure it is parented to the null layer, and let's time reverse this. So time reverse layer, and so it's now being formed as he's running, and that's just a really cool effect. So now we got a storm, a really cool apocalyptic-esque background, and now I want to add an adjustment layer. So if you just go for layer, new adjustment layer, and let's put it below the green screen plate, or the blue screen plate, excuse me, and let's add ourselves camera lens blur. And let's blur it out slightly to get some separation between the foreground element and the background. So 5 is looking pretty accurate to me. All right, cool. So now let's start adding some interesting effects. So to the running side effect, I'm going to duplicate the green screen plate or the blue screen plate, and I'm going to add a echo effect. You might have not have heard of this effect, but basically what it does is it just duplicates the layer. Let's solo this out. It kind of, you can see like a kind of stuttering effect. So it's referencing your image, and as you can see, if we increase the number of echoes, we kind of get this cool, this really cool like you know, effect. I don't know what to call it, but it looks very runny. You know, like if you're running fast, you're gonna have some weird artifacts happening. And if you kind of just mess with the time here, if we make it a smaller time, we'll make it have something like that. And it looks pretty cool. And if you increase the numbers or decrease the numbers, you can make something really cool. And you can also decay them so it will slowly fade over time. Basically, start playing around with this and you'll get an interesting sort of effect here. So I'm going to also make sure the echo operator is on screen, and then I'm going to put that below our running layer. And so now we'll have an interesting, and if you check his edges, you'll have this interesting effect on all of his movements. So it just makes everything feel a little bit more slow motion-y, right? I also think it's not a flash scene without lightning. And you know what BIGFILMS has? Is lightning. BIGFILMS, especially in the superhero pack, there's literally lightning built for flash effects. Like if you wanted to do a flash effect, they have it for you, right? So I have a few selected out here, and I really like these slow motion ones. And I believe these are in the superhero pack. And really, it's just dragging and dropping them, and scaling them down, and just finding a good spot for them. And I also put that on the null layer to be moving with the ground, and just sort of like playing around with where these lightnings should go. Just placing them in cool spots. I'm gonna throw in another one on top. And then I'm going to scale that down a little bit, mess with the timing a little bit, and bring it down in the frame and make sure it's tracked to that moving null. And already we're getting some pretty cool effects. Now, really, it's that last stretch that's going to make these effects really cool, which is adding the glows and textures and everything that will make this look really cool. So let's add an adjustment layer. So let's hit Control-Alt-Y and put it over everything, and let's add some glow to everything. And we're gonna increase the radius, and then already it's looking a lot better, especially in the blooming areas. Now I might increase that radius even more, and that's looking pretty good. We can also lower the threshold of what is glowing, and right there already looks way better than the original. So right there looks really good. A good thing to always add is chromatic aberration. So this is a plugin called Quick Chromatic Aberration 2. It is by Plugin Everything. Plugineverything.com. It's free, so download it. And if you make sure you click off unmult if you're getting like a weird effect. But if you're looking at it, if you increase this, it kind of adds this like edge separation that looks really cool. And especially in the flash scene, they really use it to create a really cool effect. So it just makes this cool separation of color, and it looks fantastic. So then it's adding lumetri color and some curves, adding some contrast to it, adding like a little S curve like that, and maybe making it more blue in the temperature, really just making it look cool. Another cool thing to add is vignetting. So if we add a black solid, if you hit Control Y or Command Y, you can add a black solid on top of everything, and we're going to put it below our adjustment layers. And we're going to add a circular mask, double click on that circular mask up here, and subtract it out. Hit F for feather it out 500%, hit T for opacity, and bring that opacity down to something like 15. And then we are creating a little vignette, which happens a lot with cameras where the lenses on the edges aren't perfect. Cool. Now we have something pretty cool, right? And one last thing I think we should add is film grain. And I am going to add film grain from the 16mm film grain from the Oregon pack from BIGFILMS. So I'm just going to drag and drop that on top of our vignette layer. And all you have to do for this is just set it to overlay. And if we go into full mode here, it adds this really cinematic film grain to everything that really ties the effects together. It might be a little too much, so if you just hit T for opacity and bring that down just a hair, maybe to like 50%, something like that, we can have this beautiful film grain. Just look at how it happens in the glows. It just looks so great. And that chromatic aberration, looks so good. All right, so that's pretty much how I made the flash scene. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe, all of that stuff. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.